More widespread on Tuesday and feeling quite warm in the light winds, still quite breezy in the east. For Wednesday, perhaps a slightly cloudier day, but generally dry for most of us. A lot of sunshine as well, breaking through that cloud, but some high-level clouds, so maybe a little bit hazier than it has been of late. And temperatures once again, well, into the mid to high teens for many of us. And whilst it will be quite cloudy to end the week, there will be some warm sunshine at times, and temperatures may well reach 20 degrees by Friday.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be the next big winner on the road in this brand new Alnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. Imagine the fun you could have in this luxurious home from home worth over £67,000. We'll also give you £5,000 in tax-free cash to make your next getaway a great one. And it could be all yours. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour to find out which paper has the most patriotic coverage of VE Day. How are Reform going to be celebrating Pride Month? And is James Bond off to the US? I'm Josh Howie. Tonight's comedians are Simon Evans and Aideen McQueen. There they are, look at them. Simon's happy. This is Headliners. But before tomorrow's news, let's go to tonight's headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Josh, thank you very much. The top stories. The royal family watched a fly past from the balcony of Buckingham Palace today to mark the start of 4 days of celebrations for the 80th anniversary of VE Day. Thousands gathered in front of the palace and on the Mall as the Red Arrows and other RAF planes flew over. The King and Queen were joined by the Prince and Princess of Wales, their 3 children and other senior royals. More than 1,300 military personnel were involved in the procession, led by the Household Cavalry and also the King's Troop of the Royal Horse Artillery. Actor Timothy Spall recited an excerpt of Winston Churchill's 1945 victory speech, and a tea party took place with the King and Queen, joined by veterans. Sir Keir Starmer was greeted with applause from guests as he joined the VE Day street party in Downing Street. The Prime Minister, joined by his wife Lady Starmer, walked out of Number 10 holding a plate of cakes, which he then handed out to some of his guests. Elsewhere, the Home Secretary has described terror raids in which 8 men were arrested as one of the biggest counter-terrorism operations in recent years. Reports say the arrests came just hours before a suspected attack was set to be launched. 5 men, including 4 Iranian nationals, were arrested at locations across England on Saturday, while the Metropolitan Police confirmed a further 3 Iranian men were arrested as part of a separate operation. Yvette Cooper says the government is supporting the relevant security agencies in the ongoing investigations. Elsewhere, the family of a 14-year-old boy who died after a fire at an industrial estate say he was loved by all who met him. 14 children arrested on suspicion of manslaughter have been released on bail after Leighton Carr was killed in a fire in Gateshead. The fire was extinguished and police said Leighton's body was located inside the building. Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel's plan to capture all of the Gaza Strip will be intensive, with troops to remain there for an unspecified length of time. The Israeli Prime Minister says IDF forces will not launch raids in then abandoned territory, but the opposite. The plan includes distributing aid, though supplies will not be let in yet. The newly approved defensive plan would move Gaza's civilian population southward and keep humanitarian aid from falling into Hamas's hands. And Trent Alexander-Arnold has announced that he will be leaving Liverpool Football Club at the end of the season. In a statement, the England defender said it was the hardest decision he'd ever had to make, but he wants to put himself first professionally and personally. The 26-year-old, who's been at the club since he was just 6 years old, is out of contract on the 30th of June, and he's expected to join Real Madrid. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. It's over to Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome to Headliners. Our aim is to give you the very best of tomorrow's newspapers with the best of today's comedians. First things first, we're going to have a look at the front pages, though. The Daily Mail has "Thank You." The Sun, "Awe and Peace." The Telegraph, "PM prepares for attacks by Russia." Metro, "Send us victorious." The Guardian, Number 10 to rethink fuel payment cut. The Times, "Visa curbs on nations said to hike asylum bill." Lots of newspapers there. Actually, I think we're going to go straight... by the way, hello, both of you.
There.
Nice to see you both. Did you have a nice weekend?
Yeah.
Very good. And did you do anything today to celebrate VE Day?
No.
OK. Fair enough.
Well, I spoke to my parents, who remembered it.
OK, cool. Well, I went to the pub under the flight path of the arrows, the red arrows. And but then it turned out that the pub was not under the flight path of the red arrows.
Oh, well, you were sold a pub, were you?
Yeah, I was sold a false pub there, so that was a very, very disappointing thing. But anyway, well, look, let's go to the Daily Mail first. Aideen, you're gonna... Actually, well, either of you could do it. Simon, do you want to do the Daily Mail?
I will do it for you, Josh, yes.
Thank you.
It says, "Thank you." And there is a picture of the crowd gathered on the Mall or the Mall. In the American version, and how can I describe it? I think they have deliberately elevated a mixed-race child wrapped in a Union Jack, which I suppose is an optimistic vision of the future. And
cynical.
On a white man's shoulders, but next to the black mother there. And so that's very much in keeping with the predominant mode for TV advertising and drama nowadays, has crept onto the front page of the Mall as well.
How could you think such a joyous occasion, a random... I don't think these people are even related.
Not random. Wake up, not random. Also dominating that photograph are a number of American-branded Chinese-made iPhones as well. So we have basically achieved world peace through commerce. and immigration.
Well,
and that should be celebrated. And it's marvellous, isn't it? 80 years. As we've discussed before, this is almost certainly the last major anniversary of this event because very few people are still alive
living
who remember
memory,
it now. Yeah, I spoke to my 95-year-old father today, who remembers the piece, and my 88-year-old mother, who does not quite remember it. Knows that she was there. She was 6 at the time when it was achieved.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So it's going. Yeah, it's going. But anyway, as Robert Hardman correctly says, eternal gratitude to those who, in Winston Churchill's words, drew the sword against tyranny. Although I'm not sure they knew that's what they were doing at the time.
Well, I mean, the righteous generation, and I think that's a really beautiful photo. I'm less cynical. I think everybody...
No, not cynical, just deliberate. Definitely chosen specifically. There's no question about it.
Everybody's smiling. Everybody's there to celebrate. There is another child in the photo as well, who is not smiling. The only person not smiling. Yes. How dare they?
That's right.
So yes,
she's
this is obviously
saddled with 2 white parents. That's why.
Oh, is that what this is a great day, and I feel that I'm encouraged by the fact that people are celebrating this day.
Yeah, I think it's nice. When I moved to Britain first, I was shocked by how little celebration there was of Britishness. And like in Ireland, we have St. Patrick's Day, and we can celebrate that. There's a lot of celebration. So I think it's great.
Do you acknowledge the end of the Second World War? Because Ireland was somewhat ambivalent.
We don't. In fact, Eamon de Valera wrote a letter when Hitler died of condolence.
April 30th.
But was very soon. But we don't. In Northern Ireland, they do. Yeah, we don't. I mean, I had a granduncle who died in the American Navy initially, and I had a grandaunt who was in the British Army as a nurse. But so people have had relations. But I think it's wonderful. It's very interesting. And I mean, again, like you said, it's going out of living memory now. Even the next one, people will barely remember it. I mean, some of my ex-boyfriends barely remember it, which is very, very sad for me.
That's how old they are.
That's how old they are.
Very good. Yeah, I know. It's a positive day for everybody apart from the woke right.
Yeah.
You probably see it as a terrible day.
I don't know, the woke left probably don't. I know the woke right are terribly fashionable at the moment. I mean, I live in Brighton and Hove. I didn't notice wandering around, didn't notice anybody marking it. No, there were no street parties or picnics in the park.
It'll be very interesting to see what happens to it, because I remember for the Irish independence, I remember the 75th anniversary of it, and these little veterans came out and they were so old and we celebrated them. But now they're long dead, and there's now a reimagining of what that is. So in 20 years' time, there'll be a very different view of World War II, I think.
Yeah. Well, look, let's have a look at the Daily Telegraph then. They've obviously got the photo at the top of the royal family. We're getting a good look there, Aideen, at our good-looking future royalty.
Yes.
They're going to be good-looking adults, aren't they?
They're going to be very good-looking adults.
I think we should get Prince George on the throne as soon as possible, don't you?
He's got.
We'd have a crack at the record then. The Queen was this close.
He's got great hair. Yeah. They've all got great hair.
He's I hate to say it, not a good person, but Prince Philip, who died there recently, who was terribly racist and sexist and everything. Simon's big fan of his.
Prince Philip was not
He was very, very good-looking when he was young.
Mischievous.
Yes, he was naughty.
He had a robust sense of humour.
And we've got also, I didn't know her name, but yes, Princess Charlotte looking straight into camera, looking quite terrifying, a bit like sort of Wednesday Addams.
Yeah, she's obviously going to be a supermodel, that's for sure. She has no curiosity. I'm like, where are they standing if they've got such a bad view that they have to lean? I suppose it's showing us we're leaning to the left like everybody in this country now.
There's a Twitter account, I think his name is Rivellino, something like that, who analyses the angles at which people lean towards one another in couples photographs and so on, and the one who leans the more is the one who is
more
dependent. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, so, and it encourages men to stand upright and allow their women to lean into them. He says it's disastrous for marriages if it goes the other way. Well, in this picture,
I didn't know you read Cosmopolitan magazine, Simon.
This is X. But Prince William is leaning heavily, but then so too is Kate. So I don't know who comes out of this. As you say, Wednesday is probably the best.
Yeah. Well, what are they looking at? Something's going on there that is very exciting.
I assume it's a fly past, right? It's the Red Arrows who failed to come over your pub and instead headed straight over to Buckingham Palace.
The Irish government are crowdfunding a trip to Turkey for Prince William, by the way.
Okay.
I was told to tell you.
So the good news is that we have a fly pass, so we have some aeroplanes, but as we have a later story here, PM prepares for attack by Russia. So we've got enough to put on an aerial display, not over the pub that I was at today, unfortunately, but maybe not enough to protect us.
Yeah, so officials are asking to update the 20-year-old contingency plans that would put the UK at war footing with Kremlin. So, I mean, I'm glad that they're doing this, and it says it's secret plans, but I'm sure that everybody's doing it. I mean, 20 years ago, they were probably telling people to take iodine tablets and duck and cover. And now we have to deal with cybercrime and all of this, which I think if there's going to be World War III, it's going to be... No, they'll just unplug the internet.
Start to be over in about 2 minutes.
It'll be over in 2 minutes. We'll all come into the living room shocked. So we do have to prepare for this. I don't think this is this big secret scandal. I think this is normal. Although it says PM is preparing, which makes me think it's just Keir on his own. And if he appears on the front line just on his own, well, they say surprise is the best form of attack, so they will be surprised.
Simon, isn't it incredible that we don't have preparations for a cyber attack, official preparations?
I mean,
seemingly.
Judging from most of the cyber attacks to which Britain and indeed America have been prey in the last few years, not only we're not prepared, they don't even update their software as frequently as most independent individuals do, trying to run businesses from home. I mean, the NHS was still running on Windows Vista.
Well, maybe this is the only hope that we have, is that our software becomes so decrepit that our enemies are so ahead they can't go backwards to be able to attack our software.
They've developed a bug that will attack something that was developed in the 21st century, and they're thrown by the fact that we're on 98.
Yeah, I like how the royal family will escape on the royal yacht.
Really? So rubbish. Like a peddler.
Yeah, Americans have the sort of Air Force One, and we're just going to dump them on a yacht. And be like, good luck with the sales, guys.
Basically a 3-star hotel on the sea.
Most wealthy Americans certainly spend their retirement just cruising the seas endlessly now anyway. I think that's probably how the royal family should just be permanently at sea on
Surely
a nuclear submarine.
there's got to be a sitcom in, like, the royal yacht as they're surviving an apocalypse. Another little story here. Trump may send migrants to Rwanda hotels built by Britain. This is what we see. Britain has spent hundreds of millions of pounds in Rwanda, and it seems to be other countries are gaining the benefits.
Yes, we laughed ourselves out of that one, which was obviously developing into a perfectly viable scheme, and instead we have nothing as a backup measure, and other countries are taking advantage of it.
But they're not, they don't just find these hotels and wander into them. I'm sure the British government have been paid well for these hotels.
No, we paid for the hotels.
Yeah, I know we paid for them, but I'm sure the Americans are paying us.
No, they're not paying us at all. They'll give more money to Rwanda. That's the point.
I would like to know why you're sure of that. Why that's your default assumption?
Well, nothing happens. This is a business.
In how many stories in the last 20 years has the British government come out ahead in one of these situations?
But when you think about it, I'm sure they built these hotels in Rwanda. They still belong to the British government.
No, they don't. That's the point. They belong to Rwanda.
Okay.
That's the point.
I'd like to say I have a bridge I'd like to sell you, but it's literally that. I mean, it is.
Well, I don't. I'm going to negotiate the deal for them to get some money for these hotels.
Good luck with that. Well, look, we've got more front pages coming up. We'll have a look at some of the papers inside. We're going to start with the Independent, Simon. And it's only red, white and blue for reform.
Yes, this has proved to be quite controversial immediately. I'll read the headline. Reform to ban all flags except Union Jack. The Union flag, of course, they mean. It's only a jack in certain circumstances. Even AD knows that. And St George's Cross on council buildings. And then in the first paragraph, it also includes county flags. So a few people like Tim Farron from the Lib Dems, I think he is, isn't he still, that were saying, why won't we be allowed the flag of Westmoreland, the idiot? You will. You'll be allowed the flags of your locality, but the point is not to fly either flags of countries who are currently at war that you want to demonstrate support with, or flags of pride, Ukraine and so on. Reform want the flagpoles above the council buildings to be reserved for those which demonstrate the loyalty of those within, essentially, rather than political causes that people who may not particularly want to support.
Yeah, I think that it sounds like a policy that they'd come in because we've seen some of these flags. We've seen pride flags. We've seen up for a month, but And that sort of makes sense, but I wonder if this has allowed an attack. Certainly the Independent is going straight away. They're going, look at this, they hate Ukraine.
Yeah.
Reform is, Nigel Farage is in the pocket of Putin or loves Putin, and it's given them that avenue, which I don't know if they necessarily appreciated when they made
It's
this.
given the avenue
announcement.
to Labour MP and veteran Mike Tapp, as you say, as you quote, as essentially said that Farage is doing this because he loves Vladimir Putin and he doesn't want to see. I don't think that will remain the visible. I think, as with most of the calls that Farage has made quite correctly so far, it seems, in terms of elevating the prospect of a reform government. He's understood the mainstream. He understands the main thrust of how these visuals, these optics work, rather than the talking points that are available to somebody whose name you'll struggle to remember tomorrow morning on speaking on X or on the front page of the Independent. Farage his call is relentlessly correct, I'm afraid, in judging how these things play out for most people.
But this is a great, cheap publicity stunt for him. He's actually taking down flags. And so he has, I agree with Simon, he's judged it perfectly. It's a symbol of something. I mean, I have the suffragette flag. Well, no, it's actually the Slutfragette flag for me. And it's just a little knickers that I wave out my window. But I disapprove of it now because we should just keep to the basics.
Now you're just going to be doing... What flag do you put in the Irish?
Blue and yellow knickers.
The tricolour. We have... But the county flags is interesting because when I came to England, I'd say to somebody, what county are you from? And they're like, I don't know. Very few people really care about the counties in Ireland. It's all we think about. 6 counties, 32 counties.
And we had... And our flag had a heart, a deer. Yeah. It was quite easy in that regard. They're not always as easily identified.
Yeah, well, there we go. So, on Sunday, we have Free Speech Nation. We have a live studio audience. You just saw it with Patrick. It's a lot of fun. If you want to come and join us on Sunday, scan the QR code or visit gbnews.com/tickets, Sunday to 7 to 9 p.m. Please do come along. It is a lot of fun. Coming up, we're going to be giving the Times, the front page of the Times. The once over, we also have plenty more stories inside, including the fact that student groups are backing a mass legal bid to come off the UK terror list. Terrifying. All right, see you in a couple of minutes.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
I mean, it's an absolute first for science in the UK. Of course, it's not actually the first in the world. Actually, there have been 65 children born through womb transplants. But not only is this wonderful for the family concerned, and what a sister, what an elder sister to donate her womb. But there's 15,000 women in the UK who suffer from this Mayer-Rokitansky-Kuster-Hauser syndrome, where they might have healthy ovaries, but unfortunately the womb doesn't work. Real ray of hope for them. The real hero here, I think, as well as the sister, is Professor Richard Smith from the Imperial NHS Trust. He spent 26 years developing this, started a charity, Womb Transplant UK. Wow. So this was all paid for through his charity. Doctors gave up their time for free. 17 hours of surgery, not for the faint-hearted, but lovely result.
And the baby is named after the sister, Amy, who donated her womb, and her middle name is Isabel, who's after the surgeon who essentially transplanted that womb. And to do that, you had to connect all of the tiny little blood vessels with minuscule stitches. I mean, it's incredible, isn't it?
It really is.
It is incredible. But, Anna, I put it to you, what would you say to people who would say, what is the point of this? Because you're not going to be able to provide this on the NHS. We can't afford to.
Well, as I said, that was one of my first thoughts, I have to say, when I was looking through this. And the fact that this professor has spent 26 years and actually started a charity. There are going to be a few more of these coming, but they're not going to be funded by the NHS. They are going to be funded by charity.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30am.
Only on GB News.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. We're going to go into a couple more front pages. We're going to start with The Times, Simon.
Oh, right, straight away. Yes, absolutely. The Times, big strap headline, I'm a doctor, this is how I stopped binge eating, which seems to be the main preoccupation of a lot of the newspapers lately. But their proper headline, visa curbs on nations said to hike asylum bill. So it's quite tricky to unpick this. I'll read you the first couple of paragraphs. The Home Office will restrict work and study visa applications from nationalities, including Pakistanis, Nigerians and Sri Lankans, who are most likely to overstay and claim asylum. So there's a sort of profiling going on, whereby they're treating with default suspicion visa applications from nations where more people have proven to be what can you say?
So they come here on a visa.
They come on a visa and then they overstay and then they make an asylum application. Yeah. So they try and game the system. So they're trying to do it through some sort of profiling of the kind that is generally speaking not acceptable. It's thought, you know, in airports and so on. When you're trying to decide who to frisk and whose luggage needs checking. But in terms of visa applications, this is possibly acceptable. I think for some time now, the government have been working frantically through a number of possibilities and possible attitudes that will attempt them to stem the flow of what is quite clearly a major issue underlying their sort of plummeting popularity.
And also they're going to look at bank statements submitted to reject pleas that they're destitute or require taxpayer-funded accommodation.
Yeah.
Basically, we have a lot of loopholes in the system. People have been exploiting this for decades now, really.
Loads of data available if they want to use it, but they've been reluctant to use it in the past.
Yeah.
Another one that people are talking about quite a lot is the number of people who come over claim asylum because their home country is unacceptable to them, and then they go home.
Go on holiday.
You know, go and visit relatives. Unbelievable.
It's incredible. So this is a positive step. Do you think, obviously, this must have been talked about before the elections, with reform doing so well. But what do you think, Aidan? Do you think it's going to make a difference? Do you think the British public are going to start trusting the Labour government to actually sort this out?
Well, they seem to be doing more than the Tories did.
Yes, absolutely.
But they seem to be...
Tories let in 1 million people in a year.
Less popular, and they're going to please nobody now. I don't know if people are going to like them, but I suppose it isn't a coincidence that this has come up straight after reform have done so well.
I will say, I'm just going to read this off my phone because somebody sent this to me today, but the reasons given by those who were not going to vote Labour, who were defectors from Labour since the last general election, the top 5, no mention of immigration or asylum. It was the removal of the winter fuel allowance, not reducing the cost of living, not improving public services, too many broken promises. That could be immigration, I suppose. And they haven't stood up to the rich and powerful. Those are the reasons given by people.
Very interesting. And it doesn't include immigration or it doesn't include wokeism, as they call it, as well.
But also people might be unwilling to say immigration.
I agree. I think that is true, and I also think that reform is so obviously sort of associated with Farage and him standing on the beach and so on. You know that. I
mean, the numbers when you look at Runcorn, you know, the flip from a very Labour safe seat to are incredible to reform winning. So something is going on there, and immigration is the sort of policy by which all else follows in reform, really.
But it is interesting. I think there are lots of sort of assumptions people make about, who is more suspicious about these people coming over here and so on. People who vote in council elections, very often the elderly, very often pensioners, and they feel it in their wallets, and to be honest, they're probably not that bothered about, demographic change.
There's another story. Israel will seize all of Gaza and stay there, vows Netanyahu. So this is the terrible story of Israel trying to win a war that it didn't start. How dare they? This is the idea that this is somehow there are people who are presenting this as like, oh my God, I can't believe Israel are doing this. But really, Hamas have not come to the negotiating table in good fairness. They still hold they have 59 hostages, about half are alive. And what else can Israel do? I don't. That's the thing that no one ever seems to be able to answer. Like, what can Israel do to get their citizens back and also to stop Hamas?
What would you offer as a solution? Because I come from Ireland, which is very pro-Palestine.
That sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't hear or talk about these things. We've recognised Palestine as a state. The Israeli ambassador left. There's no embassy in Dublin anymore. So what would be the solution?
Well, I don't know what. I mean, I don't know what the solution is. But what I do know is that giving, the solution as would be. From before, some people would say, oh, we'll just give them the state. Well, Gaza controlled, had Hamas in control of it, and this is what they did. They started a war. Israel has no option. I mean, I guess the question becomes, first of all, whether we have a right to even tell Israel what it should do, Simon. I don't know. But the other thing would be, I haven't heard anybody else come up with a better solution for dealing with Hamas and for getting their hostages back, because it's not going to come in through negotiations.
It's so sad. I mean, I suppose I remember the 90s in Ireland and just the constant negotiations until we got the Good Friday Agreement and, what Tony Blair did, amongst others. And it's just...
But I think
there seems to have been negotiations.
People want to use that comparison, and it's just it
doesn't seem to work.
Well, it's not the same comparison because you're dealing with religious fundamentalists even more so, who believe that they will go to heaven if they just kill a bunch of Jews. Anyway, let's get off that story. Let's go on to the iPaper. Quite an interesting story about the future of our film industry here.
Yes, thousands of jobs at risk as Trump threatens 100% tariffs on UK films and the TV industry. So, I mean, Ireland benefits from this. We have they're very low tax for films. Hungary is a huge place where films are made. And Trump is upset and he wants more films to be made in America. I mean, that could mean an American James Bond.
Well, this is it, because Simon, Amazon own James Bond now. They were talking about, it seemed like they were going to be making it in the UK, but of course, Hollywood, like anybody, it's all about money.
Absolutely. I don't know what people expected when they sell the rights to James Bond to Amazon for. They've paid more than $1 billion for it. Wow. I don't think you would expect them to just go carry on making your movies as per the English model of former years. You don't have to be a particular purist to have a certain amount of alarm. When you watch Amazon's track record, they have absolutely ruined Tolkien, which I know is not quite the same thing as an entirely fictional universe, but their capacity for tone-deaf casting and reimagining of the dynamics of Middle-earth do not bode well for how they might...
You think James Bond might be an elf?
I think he might, yeah, or he might quite considerably be. I mean, even that would be fine. He might be a goblin. I think he might be an orc. No, I mean, seriously, these are sort of negotiating tactics to some extent, but they have no idea what it might mean. It is worth saying that Hollywood has been, I think, hemorrhaging revenue and control for some time now. Vancouver was a major filming site, wasn't it?
Yeah,
as you say, Ireland you can't blame Trump for attempting to take it back. If they're the main market for it, and if it's an American-owned company and they own the rights, then they should probably try and make them.
It could be disastrous for the UK. We make £5.5 billion a year from our film and TV industries. So a lot of that coming in with Netflix money and Amazon, HBO. I imagine there's a lot of people working film here who are terrified.
Bond is slowly getting very American, though. He's wearing a Tom Ford suit. That didn't please you, did it?
Who is?
Bond has been wearing the Tom Ford suit since Daniel Craig.
Tom Ford
he stopped drinking. That's very American.
I will happily wear a Tom Ford suit if that would help to shift a few units for them.
Fair enough. Well, look, coming up, we've got some more front pages. We're going to be looking at the front page of The Guardian. We're also going to be looking how the UK are unable to access the EU crime and illegal migration data. Believe it or not, that story is actually far more interesting than it sounds. Come back and see it in a couple of minutes.
Hello there and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. While the weather's not going to be changing drastically through the next few days, it's going to stay dry for most of us. It will gradually turn warmer towards the end of the week, but there'll still be a bit of a breeze in the south. So we've got this large area of high pressure dominating the UK at the moment. Any showers that we saw through Monday clearing away as we go through this evening, and I think generally speaking it's going to be a dry night across the vast majority of the UK. That cloud melting away to leave generally clear skies for many places overnight tonight. Just a chance the odd spot of rain perhaps across the far northeast of Scotland and the odd shower in eastern counties of England. Under those clear skies, temperatures really falling away, so a widespread frost in the countryside, though most towns and cities staying just above freezing. Tuesday then begins on a fairly sunny note for the vast majority of the UK, but down across the southeast of England a bit more in the way of cloud once again, although not as cloudy as it was on Monday. Still one or two showers perhaps on the east coast of England, but generally speaking most of Wales, northern England, Northern Ireland and much of Scotland starting the day on a bright and sunny note, and any mist and fog quickly clearing by mid-morning. A bit more in the way of cloud though still across the far north east and northwest of Scotland, just bringing the odd spit and spot of rain to a few places. Through the day then we might just see one or two showers just clipping into parts of East Anglia and Lincolnshire, but not as many as there were on Monday, and many places staying dry. The best of the sunshine out towards Wales, Western England, Scotland and Northern Ireland, and here we'll see the highest temperatures too, so 17s and 18s a bit more widespread on Tuesday, and feeling quite warm in the light winds, still quite breezy in the east. For Wednesday, perhaps a slightly cloudier day, but generally dry for most of us. A lot of sunshine as well, breaking through that cloud, but some high-level clouds, so maybe a little bit hazier than it has been of late. And temperatures once again, well, into the mid to high teens for many of us. And whilst it will be quite cloudy to end the week, there will be some warm sunshine at times, and temperatures may well reach 20 degrees by Friday.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to Headliners. We're going to look at a couple more front pages. We're going to start with The Guardian, which also has that photo, Simon, of the royal family there sort of inclined.
With the green lines all out of whack.
I'm wondering, they're saying this because of this flyover. I wonder if they're all leaning because someone did a fart.
No, it's definitely to the left, to the left.
Yeah, I think they could be trying to get away.
Very
So we don't see who. Indeed. So anyway, big story there, number 10, to rethink fuel payment, Simon.
Yes, they were obviously listening to the list of complaints I read out just before the break, and they've adapted their. I do think the fuel payment thing was a massive vote loser. It was particularly egregious, given that they had created the expense of fuel payments themselves as well with their net zero nonsense and so on. And obviously they've lost a lot of support through that. And as I say, it is the people who vote, the pensioners do vote.
Yeah. To be fair, the net zero stuff had come in under the Tory government.
Oh, absolutely, it had. Yeah. But I think they've ramped it up a bit, and you know, Ed Miliband as such an explicitly visibly visceral reaction you have to him as a mascot for this.
Well, certainly it was just bad politically because it allowed them to be beaten across the head with this thing. Yes. So they're going to up the payment now to the £11,500 threshold.
Too little, too late. They're never coming back. Yeah. I've never seen a country so eager for the next general election less than a year after the last one.
They've still got plenty of time, Simon. They've still got plenty of time.
Let's look to the Mirror, Aideen.
A day to remember. Nation unites for its heroes 8 years on. So
that's a packed mall there.
Looks beautiful.
Yeah. The red arrows, Josh.
Yeah, there they are. I finally got to see them.
In red, white and blue, in black and white.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, look, let's look at some of the stories inside the newspapers. We're going to have a look first at The Times, Aideen, where academia and Islamists continue their unholy alliance.
So your student groups back Hamas's legal bid to come off the UK's terror list. 18 student groups have supported an application by Hamas against UK government's decision to designate it as a terrorist group, the Times is going to reveal. So they want Hamas, to be seen as an army, I suppose?
They just don't want to be seen as terrorists.
As terrorists. Yeah. So what are they if they aren't terrorists? That's the question.
Well, they are a
government army, yes. It's
interesting that they call them student groups, isn't it? And you picture, like Rick Mail and the Young Ones or something, but I imagine they're probably largely Palestinian individual. I don't know.
Pro-Palestinian.
Well, pro-Palestinian, but it'd be interesting to know what the ethnic makeup is as well, or whether they are just, left-wing ideologues.
I think it's a mixture of both. I think there are some Islamists involved, and I think there are also a lot of far-left cranks.
It's nonsense to say that you cannot support freedom for Palestine or a two-state solution or any number of negotiating positions without explicitly being pro-Hamas.
Yeah, that's. I mean, but this is it.
It's very disingenuous of them to say.
Well, that's exactly what it is. It's creating an atmosphere where Palestinian advocacy becomes illegal. That's absolutely ridiculous. I want a two-state solution as its ideal. There's a long way to go before that could happen. But the point is that technically makes me pro-Palestinian. But there's a big difference there between being, as Simon says, pro-Hamas, which is a terrorist organisation. It committed the most outrageous evil we've really seen on this planet, certainly in this century.
It would be like in the 90s saying that you could only be an Irish nationalist while supporting the IRA. It doesn't make any sense.
And they're trying to, defend. This is all about, they're saying it's defending the right of students, academics and communities to think freely. And it's, I would say that these groups who've signed this, these student bodies, have actually kind of outed themselves. And I would argue need to be looked at by organisations such as Prevent or Security Services or whatever. If they're trying to argue that Hamas are not terrorists, I think that there's something fundamentally wrong there.
I think they're just students and they're trying to be controversial. I don't think they've thought about it that much.
They're annoying their dads, but the time will come. Money talks.
Telegraph next, Aideen, and women want to swim without the extra limb.
OK, so the City of London Corporation announced last week that the transgender people could continue to access the single-sex bathing pools.
What's the headline, if you don't mind?
So, yes, do not talk about trans ruling staff at Highgate Men's Pond are told. So at Highgate, as you'll know tomorrow, Simon, when you take your dip, there are 3 pools. The ladies' bathing area, as they still quite charmingly call it, the men's pool and the unisex pool. So this is ridiculous.
That's the one Simon goes in.
Yeah.
And these, can I just be clear, these are not nudists, are they? They're single sex, but they wear bathing attire.
Yes, they do. I know you're getting excited thinking that they wouldn't be, but they are. And I've been to them before.
I very much doubt they're particularly... the sort of people who go into those ponds are very rarely the kind... You know what I mean? It's like those two different versions.
You've had a good look. Anyway...
They'll all look like Michael Foot, won't they, basically?
They'll pull back to us tomorrow.
But this seems like a non-story because there is a unisex bathing pool here, where I always go to because I identify as somebody who prefers male attention. So I'll always go to the unisex bathing pool. And I'm not surprised they were told to people not to speak about it. It seems like much ado about nothing. I doubt there would be that many people.
Well, women have been fighting for years to be able to have the right to swim in their own space. That's the point. The law has now been made very, very clear on this matter, Simon, as we know from the Supreme Court. And yet still the City of London Corporation are still going, no, we're going to look into it. They're breaking the law. This is a female space and it should be for females only.
I would also say that Much Ado About Nothing, in common with most of Shakespeare's comedies, plays with gender and stereotypes and cross-dressing.
And was about something. A shout out there to Venice Allen, who is a friend of Free Speech Nation, and she's one of the leading lights campaigning for women's rights over the last year. And this is her sort of, one of her sort of pet projects to make this space. So they basically went down today, dressed up as men, but really with moustaches and on, and tried to get into the men's space, saying, we identify as men, let us in. And there's footage of them being blocked.
I'm sure the men would be more than happy, wouldn't they?
Well,
yeah, men seem to be delighted when you accidentally go into their toilet.
Yeah.
You feel like a celebrity.
Whether you're wearing
I know what we're in the toilet. Oh, no.
I do it all the time.
To the happy days of the raves.
So, Sun, Aideen and Trump shuts down a beloved tourist destination.
So Trump orders reopening of notorious Alcatraz prison after 60 years to lock up America's ruthless dregs of society. So this is a great story, and it's obviously he's just doing this as a symbol. You know, he said build a wall, but he didn't really mean build a wall. He just meant I'm going to be hard on immigration. So he says open up Alcatraz. He's not going to do that. I mean, it's ancient at this stage. It's a museum.
Yes.
Opening up Alcatraz would be like Nigel Farage saying he was going to put loads of immigrants in the Tower of London, right? It's not going to happen. But I think he's saying this. It's a very funny gesture. It's a PR move from the king of TV wrestling.
There's a reform policymaker, by the way, writing down what you just said. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I think my wife and kids went to Alcatraz. I think they went on a West Coast holiday without me some years ago, and they said it was very exciting.
Well, it's a National Park Service. It gets 1.5 million visitors a year.
Yeah.
It's also an excellent movie.
You could probably get enough revenue from it to build a decent high security prison.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, there's 2 million prisoners in America, and so Alcatraz opening it up wouldn't make that much of a difference. And most of the prisons are privatised. And Alcatraz wasn't that bad in some cases. It was one of the only prisons with hot water in the showers.
Oh, really?
Because part of the escape. I've done a deep dive.
Well, how appropriate.
So because the water surrounding was so cold, part of escaping was to get used to cold water.
Right.
So they knew this, and they didn't allow them to experience cold water. So it was quite the treat, Alcatraz.
I think it's obviously that maybe it's just what it represents. It's an idea. It's part of American mythology, getting tough on crime.
Jail from only Clint Eastwood could escape from.
Exactly.
So, and it had a Birdman earlier, didn't it?
So we'll see. But actually, the interesting thing is that it seems like the prison service said, yeah, we'll do it. Like, this is the president. Okay, yeah, fine, we'll do it. Well, final few front pages coming up in a second. Also, we have some more great stories. Do not miss it, please.
Flip around.
yeah, exactly. This headline is only on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Despite some dry and sunny weather across parts of the UK, it's a different story across parts of Europe, with heavy showers and thunderstorms for many of us, particularly across parts of Spain, southern parts of France and parts of Italy too, seeing some heavy thunderstorms throughout Tuesday afternoon. Southern parts of Greece and Turkey probably holding on to the best of the sunshine through Tuesday afternoon. Highs here around 26 degrees, but there will be some sunshine on offer for many of us over the next couple of days, and highs in Tenerife around 24 or 25 degrees.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Thank you for sticking with us to the very end. We're going to make it worth your while. We're going to start with the Sun, which has a lovely wraparound cover. There it is there. And if we're looking at that, Simon, now my theory before, I think it becomes a bit more prominent. No, I'm just saying, if you look at it, no one else, everyone on the left-hand side is standing straight.
I know where you're
going.
If you
look at Queen Camilla's bottom, if you look at the angle there, and then you look at everybody else,
you expect us to be respectful towards your hobby horses, and then you badmouth our royal family in front of a national conference. This is absolutely disgraceful.
You're right, I apologise.
She's the Queen of England, and if you want support and allyship, then you should show some respect.
Sorry, and I just think that at the end we have the princess, and she's got a cold.
Aww.
She's not moved. That's why I think she's not partying.
I'm sorry.
We've got Princess Anne.
I am not participating in this any further.
Do you want to say anything about Princess Anne? It's nice to see her. Get a nice big.
It is nice to see
featured.
her, and she's dressed like I was dressed last night on Free Speech Nation in my colonial clothing. So we've got something in common.
Fair enough.
Handsome woman.
Well, let's go to the Daily Star then, where we have. Now we've got a picture here of President Trump, and in the Daily Star. I am not sure if it's just about to come up. Now, you can see it there. Do you think, Simon, that that's AI?
What, Donald Trump as Darth Vader?
Yeah, do you think that's a real photo, or do you think that they've used some sort of AI to make...
Well, he was accused, wasn't he, today, of presenting himself as the new Pope as well, using similar techniques, so I suppose he can't really complain if there's a little bit of...
He's got a great body.
Chicanery, yeah. Yeah, a lot of... what do they call it? Vascularity. A lot of vascularity.
It looks like Joe Rogan's body.
Yeah.
A neck.
And, also, those two eagles either side of him. He hasn't had a great deal of luck with eagles on the whole, has he?
No.
I remember one attacking him in his own office.
No way!
Yeah, do you not remember that?
I don't remember that.
He had one on his desk and he went to feed it and it flapped his wings and his...
OK, it's an interesting kind, because in 1988 an eagle attacked our then Taoiseach, Charlie Haughey, who turned out to be an awful scoundrel. So
wow.
Eagles know.
The eagle never lies.
Well, look, let's look at some of the stories inside the newspapers. We're going to go to the Telegraph, Aideen. And can you nail this story? Hey? Nail?
Hey, stop. So, matron, carry on, cut as Britain's censors crack down on classic comedy. So this is about Ofcom suffocating stations that are playing these classic films, which have slightly saucy things which might not be acceptable in today's parlance. The word that they used was the W word, the woog.
Wig. Yeah.
Yes. And you can't say it, but apparently older English people, all they want to hear is woo all day long. So
well, that isn't from a Carry On movie. That's from another thing, A Family at War, I believe. That was that particular one.
Yes, that's a drama, isn't it? Yes,
yeah.
But you would think it was probably not used in order to get a laugh.
No, and the argument goes, Simon, that these are sort of almost historical documents.
Well,
to pretend that
absolutely.
these words didn't exist or these attitudes, we'd now say maybe are sexist or misogynist, but they were part and parcel of it.
Well, Talking Pictures TV, which I don't subscribe to it myself, but it's clearly it's a labour of love. It's run as a TV channel by Sarah Cronin Stanley with her father Noel from an office in their Hertfordshire garden, Hertfordshire, and I think it's despicable that Ofcom would come for people like this who are just showing old reruns of It Ain't Half Hot Mum and some carry-on films.
It seems far too much. It's interesting. It's just words they changed. Like the song Fairy Tale in New York, when that came out first, the censors were worried about the word arse in it. They didn't mind about the F boop word at all. Then they worried about the arse was fine, but the F boop word, meaning to be homosexual, was bad. I mean, in 200 years' time, they'll be worried about the word scumbag in it because it's insulting to the amoeba community
I always
of
thought
plankton.
it was slightly tone deaf as an Irish slang, the F word in that context. But my daughter used to dance around the kitchen when she was about 7, singing Fairy Tale.
I hope you filmed her.
I did.
So you can now
Get her cancelled like that.
They talk about is that campaigners are calling for Ofcom to grant an exemption for classic comedies, like vintage cars are exempt from MOTs. I think that's a really good idea.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think they should absolutely do that.
Don't
I
have
like
to
the
use
one that
bicycle
says
helmets.
there's one that's got T blank blank SER, which I've just about worked out what that is. Then it goes slut in inverted commas. Missing. And then the next one is T blank blank.
Sorry
T.
for that. By the way, ironically, I will now apologise for the use of that word.
A slut was traditionally
Someone will be showing this TV series
a woman
in 20
who
years.
did not take sufficient pride in her housekeeping skills.
Okay.
Well, we won't be repeating that word again. Simon, we're going to go to The Guardian, and they have Europe being blamed for climate change.
Yeah, 2 Britons to challenge UK's weak response to climate crisis in Strasbourg court. Doug Pawley and Kevin Jordan say their lives are being ruined and a lack of effective strategy infringes their human rights. Because they've been failed by the UK's flawed response to climate breakdown. Of all the things you could take personally, I think I would struggle. I think there's a psychological issue that needs addressing here before the legal ramifications, I would suggest.
I kind of agree with him because we're told that there's a climate crisis, it's terrible, when everything's going to be bad. And then the government make us feel like it's our fault. Oh, well, you didn't separate your paper from your plastic, you didn't wash your carton. They're like a bad boyfriend blaming it all on us, the individual. So maybe this is the good thing that they're doing this.
Yeah, maybe.
Shake it up a bit.
Well, I don't know. It's going to the it's interesting that they're kind of. What do they think the government was meant to do? It seems like we're one of the countries in the world that have made all these changes.
Well, there is. I suspect there is. I don't know whether it would survive even their own internal interrogation, but I think there is a kind of visceral sense that local climate change is caused by local climate change measures.
Yeah.
You know, that they don't understand.
Connected to a wider
Paulie
system.
has multiple disabilities. I am sorry for him. Exacerbated by rising temperatures. Doesn't say what they might be, but it might very well be uncomfortable.
Right, well, the show is nearly over. Let's take another quick look at Tuesday's front pages. The Daily Mail. Thank you. The Sun, War and Peace. Telegraph, PM prepares for attacks by Russia. Metro, send us victorious. The Guardian, number 10 to rethink fuel payment cut. The Times, visa curbs on nations said to hike asylum bill. So that is it for tonight's show. Thank you very much to my guests, Simon and Aideen. I'm going to be back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Aideen and Lewis Schaefer. If you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat, then stay tuned for breakfast. Bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, the weather's not going to be changing drastically through the next few days. It's going to stay dry for most of us. It will gradually turn warmer towards the end of the week, but there'll still be a bit of a breeze in the south. So we've got this large area of high pressure dominating the UK at the moment. Any showers that we saw through Monday clearing away as we go through this evening. And I think, generally speaking, it's going to be a dry night across the vast majority of the UK. That cloud melting away to leave generally clear skies for many places overnight tonight. Just a chance the odd spot of rain perhaps across the far northeast of Scotland and the odd shower in eastern counties of England. Under those clear skies, temperatures really falling away, so a widespread frost in the countryside, though most towns and cities staying just above freezing. Tuesday then begins on a fairly sunny note for the vast majority of the UK, but down across the southeast of England, a bit more in the way of cloud once again, although not as cloudy as it was on Monday. Still 1 or 2 showers perhaps on the east coast of England, but generally speaking, most of Wales, northern England, Northern Ireland and much of Scotland starting the day on a bright and sunny note, and any mist and fog quickly clearing by mid-morning. A bit more in the way of cloud, though, still across the far north east and northwest of Scotland, just bringing the odd spit and spot of rain to a few places. Through the day then, we might just see 1 or 2 showers just clipping into parts of East Anglia and Lincolnshire, but not as many as there were on Monday, and many places staying dry. The best of the sunshine out towards Wales, Western England, Scotland and Northern Ireland, and here we'll see the highest temperatures too, so 17s and 18s a bit more widespread on Tuesday, and feeling quite warm in the light winds, still quite breezy in the east. For Wednesday, perhaps a slightly cloudier day, but generally dry for most of us. A lot of sunshine as well, breaking through that cloud, but some high-level clouds, so maybe a little bit hazier than it has been of late. And temperatures once again, well, into the mid to high teens for many of us. And whilst it will be quite cloudy to end the week, there will be some warm sunshine at times, and temperatures may well reach 20 degrees by Friday.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be the next big winner on the road in this brand new Alnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. Imagine the fun you could have in this luxurious home from home worth over £67,000. We'll also give you £5,000 in tax-free cash to make